At Brown's Roofing, we put our customers first. Our expert project managers are there to answer all your questions and help you out with anything you need. When disaster strikes, either a hailstorm or a leaky roof, you need a contractor in which you can trust.
Hey folks, good evening. Welcome to the Digital Weather Desk, powered by Century Next Bank. I'm Jared Floyd. Again, we're going to be as quick and as brief as we possibly can on these updates. And the next one after that, if you're after this one, if you are watching this after the fact, if you're watching it non-live, our next live stream will be at midnight. I'm going to take a couple of hours as the lighter precipitation continues to fall, and just again, only one person. It's a marathon, not a sprint, and we're expecting some pretty heavy precip overnight. So I'd rather focus our attention and our efforts during the overnight time frame. So I'm going to take just a couple of hours just to close my eyes and kind of reset for a little bit. I'll join you again at midnight after we wrap up this stream. Check of I-20. Again, some of our cameras are working, some of them are not. Obviously, we're running into electrical, some power issues and stuff like that, but you can see the ice accumulation on some of the DOTD traffic cams. Still some cars moving around. It looks like the ones on Well Road, those were actually, I believe, Sheriff's Department vehicles. So there's not a lot on the roadways, but that's also kind of a byproduct of what we're probably going to run into as we go into the night, is a lot of areas that we're seeing pretty frequent traffic. We'll no longer see that traffic. So what's there and what's left will likely continue to freeze, and that's going to continue to extend the concerns for what we could possibly run into as we go well into the night. Check out the radar made possible by Brown's Roofing. Again, a reminder that the gap that we have seen in terms of precipitation is kind of drawing to a close as we work deeper into the night. And so along with that, again, we're preparing for another round of accumulating precipitation, some of which could be quite heavy. In terms of totals so far, again, ice accumulation is a really funky thing, and it can vary wildly depending on location. So far, as of earlier this afternoon, the Monroe Regional Airport at their automated station had seen 0.36, a little over a third of an inch of ice accumulation. And you've seen the problems that we've already run into. As this precipitation continues to expand across the region, I would expect additional periods of ice accumulation and additional hazards as well. A look at the radar also reminds me to tell all of you that, again, the radar is essentially guessing at precipitation type. I would not get overly wrapped up in what it is indicating for any particular location in terms of precipitation type. Most of us are going to see freezing rain, maybe the occasional return to some sleet at times, which would probably be a welcome sight. But the slush that we created this morning with the freezing rain and sleet just really weighed down on a lot of on roofs of especially smaller structures, greenhouses and porches and carports and things like that. And we've already kind of run into those types of issues. Check of Futurecast. Again, most of these locations as we set up through the night are going to continue to see waves of precipitation. Some of this could be quite heavy at times, and we will probably see some pretty quick ice accumulations through the early morning hours, through the sunrise time frame. The only caveat, the only plus side that I do see is that the latest computer models have hinted at maybe getting rid of some of this precipitation a smidge earlier than initially thought. Instead of seeing it midday exiting, maybe it's late morning exiting across the region. But I'm really afraid at this point that by this juncture, the damage is kind of already done across the area. And again, a reminder that as we kind of set the stage for the rest of the evening, and you take a look at the water vapor imagery, I want to remind folks that when you see rainfall, when you are experiencing freezing rain, it's just rain. Again, I think some folks' brain sometimes still gets kind of put in the spin cycle in terms of what is freezing rain. It is just rain until it hits a power line or a tree branch or some surface that's below freezing, and it turns into that glaze of ice. So a lot of areas, I keep seeing folks that say, hey, we're just in rain. It's just rain. It's just rain. And I look at your temperatures and I'm like, no, it's freezing rain because you're below freezing. So a look at the water vapor imagery. You can see our disturbance that continues to make its way through northwestern Mexico, that big spinner out over on the left-hand side of your screen, now moving toward the middle side of your screen, that acts essentially as a conveyor belt of moisture to continue to send a lot of water our way. And you take a look at temperatures, and it is kind of one of those hold your nose kind of scenarios, because we're just going to get colder from here as we go into the night. I'm going to go again over to the University of Louisiana Monroe, the Louisiana State Mesonet, which is operated by the University of Louisiana Monroe. And the temperatures are falling quickly. I have Homer at 19. The Mesonet has Homer at 18.97. So, yes, they're at 19 degrees. Dubach at 20. Plain Dealing 20. Farmerville 21. Mer Rouge 24. I'm rounding up here. Ringgold 26. Lake Providence 27. Alto 28. Monroe 28. 28.3 if you want to get really, really technical. Eris 29, Delhi 29, 30, Jonesboro 30, Columbia 30, Sicily Island 32.25. So you are above freezing by the smallest amounts. And then you take into account the wind speeds. And I, again, want to caution folks, Natchitoches, Ruston, Camden, where you're seeing 0 mile an hour wind speeds, that is not the case. Again, we take measurements with oftentimes with something called a cup anemometer, and cup anemometers can get jammed with ice. And so instead of spinning around and measuring the wind, they're going to register 0. I would assume that's what has happened with those three areas. But 10, 15 mile an hour winds with higher gusts, bad news when we have this much ice in the trees. A lot of folks have already kind of made that connection. Reminder of the winter storm warning and ice storm warnings that are still in place across the region. It's going to be a long night for folks across the ArkLaMiss. You take a look at some of the power outages, and anytime you start seeing those bright colors, that's not good news either, as Ouachita Parish, now we're approaching about half the parish without power. Same story in East Carroll Parish. West Carroll Parish, about 30% without power. Bienville Parish, about 30% without power. So the outages are starting to become an issue, especially as temperatures drop below freezing tonight. There's going to be a lot of folks that are going to have to be very cognizant of staying warm safely. A lot of folks are asking, are temperatures going to drop? Yes, you're going to continue to see the gradual fall of temperatures. I don't see any warming trend. I wouldn't be surprised for some of you to run into a few occasional thunderstorms as we go into the night. Those thunderstorms will be frozen thunderstorms to produce freezing rain and thunder and probably some gusty winds. Road conditions are still a problem. And as you take a look at road temperatures, most of our road temperatures are dropping below freezing. So that's kind of how things sit as we go through this evening. And again, a reminder that for a lot of folks, and again, messaging is delicate because I don't want folks to be alarmed, but for a lot of us, it's probably about to get worse before it gets better. I don't think it's fair for me to sit here and say anything other than that we're expecting some accumulating ice, and that it could be problematic for our area. Just kind of switching back through all of the comments to make sure I didn't miss anything. I'm having my chat server thing is not working. It's been about 50-50 this entire stretch, and so I was just kind of switching back through to make sure I didn't miss anything in terms of storm reports that I needed to relay to everybody. Again, for a lot of these updates as we go, a lot of them we're quite social, but we have about 1,000 people on the stream right now, and so I don't want to waste time. I don't want to waste phone battery for folks that are losing power. I want to get you your update, get to the information as quickly as possible, and then when we can get to this point, you've had your information. And a lot of folks, if you're without power, conserve that phone battery, hop off, and I'll bring you more information again at midnight. But as I mentioned, it's for a lot of us, it's about to get a lot worse before it gets better. I've heard a lot of folks talking about leaking roofs. Basically, what's happening with most of our roofs is we essentially have a pack of ice and snow on our roofs. Well, all of the warm air from your home rises to the top, very tippy top of your roof, and so the top part of the roof melts. Well, that water trickles down, and if it doesn't get a chance to drain somewhere or run off, then it's just going to sit on your roof. And for a lot of folks, that's the problem that they're running into. At least that's how it's been interpreted to me. I've been on the phone with a lot of, again, this is a community thing. I've been on the phone with a lot of our sponsors and a lot of our business partners today, just trying to ask what they could do and how, and they've asked how they could help the community. And again, we've tried to relay up until this point, who has generators and things of that nature. But now, if you have water damage, our friends at ServPro, as soon as conditions can clear and travel is safe, they'll be sending crews out. So again, if you have water damage, you have nowhere to turn. That's a good place to start. A lot of folks are dealing with leaky roofs, and if you didn't see my post in the status, I talked to Jimmy earlier, and they're just waiting for roads to clear to the point where they can send crews out and start doing inspections and start, again, serving the community. This is all going to take time, but again, a reminder that the business partners that we have through this whole thing genuinely stand by waiting to help you in any way that they possibly can as we go through this. This is all a joint thing together, all trying to help the community. So again, they're standing by ready to help when they can, if they can. If you have a trusted name that you can go to, great. If you're overwhelmed and have nowhere to turn, 211 is your starting point. Dial 211. It's a free, confidential call, 24/7, 365, and they will get you patched up, or at least get you put together with the resources in your area. Connected. That's the word I was looking for. Sorry, we're getting a little blurry here. So again, as we wrap things up, there are resources. This is going to be, again, a marathon, not a sprint. We've got a lot of precipitation, ice accumulation potentially ahead of us. So be a good neighbor, take care of each other, take care of yourself, stay warm safely. I did sound just like Jerry Springer there. I did not mean that intentionally. Hopefully that made you chuckle just a little bit, because this is a stressful time. And I know a lot of folks are kind of over this and are ready to get back to normal, and I think we all are. But we've got a dicey night ahead of us. And so exercise caution, stay warm safely, and be a good neighbor to one another. The forecast is always available at digitalweatherdesk.com and on the Digital Weather Desk app. Next live stream is set for midnight. Again, we're going to take a good 2 or 3 hours to reset, recharge, because I think tonight could be pretty rough across the region in terms of adding ice accumulation across the area. For folks in the southern parishes and counties that haven't seen much, you weren't supposed to see much in that first round. I know a lot of folks were like, we just saw rain. You're right. That's all you were supposed to see in the first round. As you drop below freezing tonight, you'll entertain the potential for freezing rain as well. And your neighbors to the northwest can tell you, it's not been a festival. This has not been fun. So again, we'll join you at midnight. Thanks so much for joining the Digital Weather Desk, powered by Century Next Bank. Thanks for making this community kind of a go-to for folks in these types of situations, and we'll provide updates as we go through the rest of the night.